Life is a little weird right now. Time is moving. Except for many, life is on a standstill. While some of us may not be physically sick, we are sick. Sick of uncertainty, sick of worrying. We are worried about the security of our jobs and finances, worried about the safety of our friends and family, worried about the people who are worried about us. There is so much constant agonizing. If there's anything 2020 has taught me, it is that no matter how much planning and preparations you do, sometimes there are some things you can never prepare for. And sometimes some things will totally be out of your control. And one of those times is now.
This year has been a bit of a roller coaster for me. I think that is the case for many people around the world. I was meant to leave Korea for a fresh new start somewhere else. Plans were made, tickets were booked, bags were packed, money was spent. But long story short, at this moment, right now, I am still in South Korea. So I had to find a new job within a matter of weeks. I was able to find a job really quickly, and I was meant to start on the 2nd of March, but that had to be put on hold because of the virus. There are multiple things that came with starting a new job while being at the epicenter of an epidemic. Many questions were going through my mind almost on a daily basis was, am I going to get paid because I hadn't started working yet? Or will they just let me go because things continue to be uncertain and nobody knows what's going to happen? Unlike the last 3 years of my life in Korea, where I had somebody paying for my rent, health insurance, none of that was happening this time around. I had to find my own apartment, pay my own rent, sign up for my own health insurance and pay for it myself. And all of this was happening while I didn't get paid for much because I wasn't working. So April brought a little bit of hope because we were told that on the 6th of April we'll start working. So on the 3rd of April, I was called into a meeting. The boss lady, the lady who had called the meeting, came. There was a room and there were no people. I was expecting people because I was told to do research and be prepared for the meeting. But I went into a room with just me and her. So she was like, you know how things have been. Business has been really bad. And so a lot of people have left. And when she said that, I stopped her before she even finished. And I was like, are you letting me go? And she basically said, unfortunately, yes, we have to. And I remember thinking, my birthday is on Monday. My birthday was on the 6th of April. But I remember thinking my birthday is on Monday. The last thing I want to do is walk into my birthday being super stressed about not having a job. Because when your visa gets cancelled, which is at the end of your job, you have 14 days to find a new job, or else you have to look for other options. Now I had 3 options. Option 1 was to pack my bags and go home. Option 2 was to change my visa to a D10 visa. Option 3 was to find another job. And the thing about option 1 was that I didn't want to go home because South Africa was on lockdown, so I wouldn't be able to get to my parents. And also I just got in an apartment and I was tied to a lease, and a lot of my money was tied into that lease. So that was a no-go for me. Option 2, D10 visa. The thing about a D10 visa is that while you're on a D10 visa, you cannot do any kind of job at all. You have to wait until you find a job and then you change back into a working visa, but that could be a process. And in order to qualify for a D10 visa, you have to have savings. While I did have savings, I had no access to my savings, and I didn't want to have access to those savings, so that option was out. And I was left with option 3, which was to find a new job. So that meant that for March, there was no salary coming in. For April, there was no salary coming in. May seems a little bit hopeful, but let's see what happens.
I've often wondered if things would be better if I went home when my parents begged me to. But to be honest, if I could choose to be anywhere else in the world right now, it would be here in South Korea. Even though I've often found myself being overwhelmed with fear and uncertainty, I also have a sense of safety and that everything is going to be okay. For a while, Korea had the highest number of cases outside of China. And during that time, it really felt like a zombie apocalypse. Although there wasn't panic buying and there were no mandatory lockdown rules as in other countries, streets had fewer people, buses and trains were mostly empty. Life was hellish, and ironically, most of the cases were a result of churches.
So while trying to make a decision of whether or not I was going to stay in Korea or go, I decided to go home first to think, to be able to get some space and be able to think things through before I make a decision. So I left Korea on the 1st of February, and when I left Korea, there were about 11 cases. While I was home, I watched news almost every day just to try and monitor what was going on. And on the 17th of February, I had to come back to Korea because my contract wasn't finished yet. I arrived in Korea on February 19th, and when I arrived, there were about 40 cases. And at that week, there were about 600, and by the end of the month, there were over 3,000. A lot of foreigners who quit their jobs and left overnight because they were scared that things are about to go really, really, really bad. What about me? So I basically spent an entire week packing my life from a previous apartment to move to an apartment in Oncheonjang, which is near Oncheon Church, which was where a lot of Busan cases actually were. I got calls from my parents they were asking me, my mom was asking me like, what's going on? Am I okay? And if I wanted to go home, I said no.
I thought about Koreans. If I were Korean, where would I run to? Nowhere. I would have to wait it out. Except, unlike Koreans, I had no family here. But at least I felt safe. Korea has been dubbed an international role model for how they are responding to the virus. The country has been praised on how they responded fast before the virus became a fully blown crisis.
And also the most important thing was that in Korea was that the government is actually covering the costs for the tests. Unless you are the one to go to a hospital and request to be tested, then you would pay a little fee yourself. And in addition for that, if you are diagnosed and you are positive, then the government does cover treatment, not just for Korean nationals, but for foreigners as well.
Right now, life is a little strange. Yes, everyone still wears a mask when outside, and in a lot of places they check your temperature before you go in. And I think the government has been doing a good job as far as spreading awareness. However, people are out in numbers. Buses, trains, malls, parks are swimming with people as if everything is normal. Schools, however, are still closed. I wonder what life is going to be like when all of this is over. Will we ever feel normal walking around without wearing masks? Will it ever be okay to just sit next to someone in a train or bus or even a plane without overthinking it? Will it ever be okay to sneeze and cough in public without people giving you a side eye and making you feel like you're sick when you're probably not? Many of us have never experienced anything like this before, and sometimes I think that our perception of what is normal has been permanently altered.